Welcome back to the Little Scale Cars YouTube channel. Today's review we have the MiniGT Bugatti Chiron SuperSport 300 Plus in the world record setting deco. Alright, let's get into this, looking straight at the casting. So we have our proportions pretty good. We've got kind of the long tail look, which is what you would expect from the 300 Plus. And I think, once again, MiniGT knocked it out of the park. It doesn't look weird, doesn't look wonky at all. Looks absolutely great. It's a little bit longer in the booty. It's got a little bit of a long tail look. That's exactly what you'd expect it to be. This entire, rear clamshell, I'm going to call it, section appears to be plastic, including the roof, just like with the Pure Sport. But all the doors basically from the doors up is going to be your diecast section, which kind of the same thing I had with the Pure Sport. It's a little meh, but overall it doesn't affect the look at all, so it's not a huge deal. We have our metal base coming in to our diffusers here, which wraps around to the back, we can see. And then casted in here, we have our engine nice and visible, and then we have our rear wing, which does not move, which is kind of a shame because it really looks like it could move, but it is what it is. That's going to wrap it up for the casting. Moving on to our paint and deco. Like we said earlier, this is the world record deco, even though technically this car does not hold the world record because it only went one direction, and it also was modified from the production version that customers actually bought. They had a few modifications, like taking some of the seats out or something like that. I forget the full story, but regardless, you know what I mean when I say world record deco. And we have it finished off in this absolutely fantastic carbon fiber throughout the entirety of the model itself. That was a hair, that was not a scratch or anything like that. And it just looks so good. I skipped, this is the second color of this. I skipped the original because it was just kind of a plain matte black, and I didn't think it looked good. We should also mention that all this carbon fiber is textured, so you can kind of feel or hear that. It is really cool, and these orange stripes, subtle but very cool, help just accent everything, make everything look, pop a little bit better. Looks fantastic. For our detail department, let's get started right up front. We have our headlights painted on. We have our little Bugatti logo right there in the center. We've got all of our meshing for these grills exactly as you'd want it. We have pretty plain and bland on the sides here because there's really not a whole lot more. We've got our gas cap here. When you look into the side vents here, it's a little bit meshing looking, so I'm pretty sure there's some meshing back here. Our skirt here being a piece of the main body, I believe. And then moving to the back here, we have our insert taillight, and that actually seems like it has a strip of paint on it as well. And our exhaust here on the diffuser piece of the base, they are not painted on this particular release, which is a little bit of a bummer. But other than that, our details department is pretty good and what you would expect out of a MiniGT. Moving on to our roll test. As with all MiniGTs, it rolls, and it rolls very nicely. It even does a little bit of tire squealing if that's what you want. Alright, so for our pros and cons. Pro, we have $14 price tag, which is a little bit more expensive than the typical MiniGT. But for this carbon fiber prints on the entirety of the car, you know what? I'm honestly okay with paying a few bucks extra for that when it looks so good. No complaints there. And that moves us to our second pro, which is the carbon fiber pattern on the entire thing, because it just looks so good. So crisp, so clean. There's not even any hiccups. The only little spots I can see are right about here, but it also occurs on the other side, just a touch. So I'm assuming that's just something with the shape here, just kind of gives it a little bit of a blip. And it's not really a big deal. For our cons section, we really only have one that I can think of, and I touched on it in the details department, and that is our lack of exhaust tip paint. I just think that that is just a teeny tiny little touch. It seems like sometimes we get it, sometimes we don't. I really don't see any reason why we couldn't have gotten it. You know, it is what it is. Flipping the car over, you can see this screw hole from the back, which not ideal, but not a big enough problem that I'd really list it as a con, because it's not something you can see without basically picking the car up. For some size comparisons, here we have the MiniGT Chiron SuperSport next to a couple other Chirons you might have in your collection, with the MiniGT Pure Sport and the Hot Wheels standard Chiron. And here we have it next to some other Bugattis you might have in your collection, with the Hot Wheels EB110 and the MiniGT Cento Dieci. And finally, here we have it next to some other supercars you might have in your collection, with the Hot Wheels W Motors Like and Hypersport and the Tarmac Works Pagani Huayra BC. So that brings me into my final thoughts. I am going to give this release a 9.8 out of 10. I think, other than the exhaust tips being painted, this is a perfect release. I really cannot ask for more. I think this is the perfect deco for this car. I think if you can only buy one version of this casting, this is the one to get. The white one that's coming out soon looks fantastic as well. The matte black one that was previous to this looked okay. I think this is the one to get, though. You're not going to go wrong with this carbon fiber pattern that this casting has, that this deco has, and it is just breathtaking. One of the best 1/64th scale models in my entire collection. And that's all I have for today's video, guys. Let me know what you think about this particular model down in the comments below. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.